second grade friends, it's Mrs. Herbe. I wanted to introduce you to the first part of our next project. I hope last week you were able to listen to the story Counting Birds, and I hope that you, over the next rest of this month, that hopefully you'll be able to get out in your yard or in your neighborhood and check out the birds that live there, and maybe do a little count yourself, like how they do in the story that we read. Also, I hope you had a chance to listen to the PowerPoint and look at all of the different pictures of birds, and then possibly practice drawing a bird. Okay. In your packet that went home with your, it was in the packet that your teacher sent home, was this little packet of papers, and then there was a little thing of white paint, and also two different green quick sticks. Put those aside because we won't. We're going to be using just the white paper today, but the rest of the materials we're going to be using those next week when we make the background for our bird. Today we are just going to focus on making the bird for our piece of artwork, and then next week we'll talk about making this fun snowy background for our bird. So what you're going to do first is you're going to, you can put the rest of the papers, put those in a safe place, and all we're going to need is this piece of paper today right here. Okay, so go ahead, get that situated. You're also going to need a pencil, and you're going to need either colored pencils or crayons to add color to your bird. So go ahead, grab those things, and then we'll continue. All right, guys. Before we draw the bird, before I talk to you about drawing the bird on the good paper, I just thought what I would do is, if you didn't have a chance to practice in your sketchbook last week, I'm going to do a quick demonstration because I wanted to just show you how birds' bodies, and I covered this in the PowerPoint last week, but birds' bodies are essentially just a few basic shapes. So the first shape is a watermelon shape, and this is sort of the shape of the body. Okay, then there's also another shape that is shaped like sort of a teardrop or an ice cream cone. This is the wing shape. There's also a circle shape for the head. There is a triangle for the beak, and then there's also a shape like this for the tail. So if you can draw these basic shapes, you can draw a bird. All right. So what I did was I printed out, for the friends who are at school, I printed out a lot of the photos that were in the PowerPoint that I showed you guys. And so I have two photos here, and there's two different strategies for each of the different bird body types. So I'm going to just show you these quick strategies as another sort of thing that you can put in your repertoire of ways to draw birds. Okay? And it makes it a little bit easier. So what we always want to do is, before you start drawing the bird, is we always want to look at the back of the bird, and we want to see what type of line do we need to draw for the back of the bird's body. And in most cases, it's either a diagonal line, a horizontal line, or in very few cases, but occasionally, it's more a vertical line. So if I look at the picture of this bird, or the photo of this bird, I see that the back part of the bird's body is a diagonal line. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw that diagonal line. So I'm going to go like that. Okay. And then for the second piece of my watermelon, I'm going to draw the curve, right? And I'm going to look and see, okay, is it a really big curve, or is it a not so big of a curve, or is it a medium curve? And in this case, it's kind of like a medium curve. So I'm just going to go curve and go back. All right. And if, let's say you drew it the first time, like this. and you're like, well, that's okay, but I want it to be a little bit wider. Rather than erasing that line, what I like to do is actually draw sort of, okay, draw the line that I want, and then after I draw the line I want, then I erase the line that I didn't want. Because a lot of times what happens is when we erase the line that we draw that we don't want really quickly, we end up drawing that same line again. It's sort of funny like that. So by drawing a new line and then erasing the old line, that kind of gets rid of that problem. So if I look at this bird's body shape, there we go. And then here's a really simple thing that you can do. In the case of this bird, what I'm going to show you is we're just going to round off this top part of the bird's body, and essentially we have the whole bird. And then this particular bird has this little tuft at the top, so I'm just going to go ahead and add that tuft, and then I'm going to again just erase the line that's in there. Okay, then when I look at the wing, I can see, oh, the wing is right here, this teardrop shape, and I'm gonna, what sometimes friends have trouble drawing that shape, and so what I like to do first is see, well, where's the curved part of it? So the curved part of the wing right now is like kind of right there. And so after I draw the curve, then it makes it easier. Actually, the curve's a little bit wider. So after I draw that curved line kind of where it should be, then it makes it a whole lot easier to add the points on the end like that. Okay? And then the last part is I'm going to look at the tail, and this tail kind of comes out, curves around, kind of like that. All right, and then I can even kind of smooth that in like that. All right, so now my bird's kind of coming along, and then I'm going to look, okay, the eye is kind of right about here. This bird has a rather large eye. And then there is the beak. And then I'm just going to erase that little line in there. Okay, and then this bird has a little bit of black kind of around where the beak is. And then there's a line here kind of where the blue color of the bird is. And then I'm going to show you guys kind of a strategy for drawing the wing feathers. The wing feathers sort of up at the top of the bird are sort of larger, bigger curves, kind of like this. And then as it goes down, then the feathers get a little bit, and then I can kind of see, oh, the feather from, there's kind of some feathers here on the side, and then there's feathers that are kind of going this way underneath, and then there's feathers that are going down like this. Okay, and then when I look at the bird's foot, it's kind of right under here, kind of like that. It's kind of peeking over the branch that the bird is sitting on. Okay, so that is an easy strategy for birds that kind of have shorter, wider bodies. And there's a bunch of birds in the PowerPoint that you can use this strategy on. And then I'm going to show you another strategy where you actually draw the bird's body, but then we add the circle for the head. All right. So for example, here, I'm just going to grab one more photo for you guys. So this blue jay photo, if we look at the back of the blue jay's body, this line is actually horizontal. So if we were drawing the blue jay and we drew our watermelon shape, we would draw the horizontal line, then we would draw our curved line, and then we would add our circle shape on the end here. And then what I like to do is after we add the circle shape, then we're going to kind of add a little curve there and then add a little curve there. And that way it makes your drawing look a little more professional when you attach the head there. And then in this case with this blue jay, then we would kind of come up and add that little tuft there. And then we would go ahead and there's some lines here. Blue jay's eye. And the blue jay's beak. So that's kind of, and then we would add our tail shape. And then when we think about our wing shape, again, the curve is kind of right here. So I would draw that curve. And then I would add my point on the end like that. Okay. So that's if you were doing, so that's the blue jay. Now if I was drawing this woodpecker, in this case, the bird's body, the back line is going diagonally this way. So I would draw the diagonal line going this way. Then I would draw my curve, right? And again, if it was if I came out too far, then I would just correct it and then erase it. And then when I look here, the head of this woodpecker is kind of attached up here like this. All right, then I would erase this, and then I'm gonna do my little sort of smooth that, and then I'm gonna smooth that. So it's kind of going like that, all right? And then same thing, I'm looking, there's a big wing, so there's like a big curve right here. And then I would add the point on the end. And then this bird just has sort of a littler tail and a sort of, here's where the eye is. And then there's actually a long beak because this bird is a woodpecker. And then after I draw the basic shapes and parts of the bird, then that's when we would go and then add some of the other markings and details. And then same thing, I would look at the feathers. Kind of layered. Okay, so that's kind of what practice looks like. And then after you kind of do your practice, then you can think about drawing your bird on the good paper and see what that looks like. So I'm going to put this aside and I'm going to grab the paper that was in your, oops, there's a little mark on this paper. I'm going to flip it over. And then you're going to, and one of the things you might say is, well, what bird, you can really draw any of the Pennsylvania birds that were in the PowerPoint, and choose one that you think you might enjoy drawing and coloring. You can also look at other poses of the bird. So let's say you look on the first poster in the PowerPoint and you kind of see all the different birds. Well, maybe you want to draw a blue jay, but you don't want to draw it in this particular pose. You want the bird facing the other way. You can Google blue jay photos and you can find one that you like and draw from that reference, or you can use the photos that I included in the PowerPoint from last week. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this bird that I showed you guys earlier to draw. And so again, I'm just going to draw this diagonal line that was for the back of the bird. I'm going to leave some room. I have enough room for the tail, and I have enough room for the top of the head, and then I'm going to draw my watermelon. And then we remember the trick where we're going to round off the corner of the watermelon. And then I'm going to, this particular bird has a tuft. This is, I think, called the tufted titmouse. And then I'm going to erase in there. Then I'm going to look and see where is the curve for the wing, which is right in here. And then I'm going to draw the points on the wing. And then I'm going to add the tail feather, actually feathers. And I need the eye, so I'm gonna see, a lot of times friends just slap the eye on anywhere, but just kind of look and see how far is the eye down from the top of the head and kind of where is it situated. It's kind of in there. And then the beak for this particular bird is sort of shorter. So like that, and then I'm just gonna erase those lines right there. And then I'm gonna look at some of the markings around the eye. So there was one that kind of came around here, a little like that. And there were some where it kind of came in and went like that. And then I'm gonna go ahead and draw my feathers. In this case, I can really only kind of see part of the claw there. All right, and there's my bird. And then after you draw the bird in pencil, then you can either take colored pencil or crayons, and then you're going to go ahead and add your color. And another thing I wanted to show you guys was, so this is my black crayon. I'm actually going to sharpen the tip a little bit with crayon sharpener. So yeah, so sometimes colored pencils might be, if you have them, might be a little bit better because you can get a sharper point. But I'm going to use, and when you're coloring, one of the ways that you can kind of show the bird's feathers is, I'm going to take my blue. So this bird has a little bit of light blue here. So what you can do first is I'm just going to lightly color this light blue here. But then what you can also do is if you take your crayon or your colored pencil and you kind of draw lines in the direction of sort of where the feathers are growing, then it makes your bird look even more realistic. And I'm also going to erase this curve line right here just because it's more just from shading. So you can kind of outline the feathers. And this part is probably going to take you the most time because you just want to take your time. And under here I also see some little feathers. So I'm just kind of making like little lines. Looked like the beak had some blue and black in it, so you can kind of layer your colors. And then I'm just going to kind of overall color this light blue here. And then I notice underneath the light blue here, there's actually a little bit sort of an orangish color. So I'm going to grab my orange. And there's a little bit of feathers here. Just take your time, add your colors, sort of really look at your bird. And then once you're all done, then that will be all that we're going to do for this week, is just to work on our bird and make our bird look as good as we possibly can. And then next week, we will make the background for our birds. So I hope you have fun with this. And if you have any questions, as always, feel free to stop in during our check-in on Thursday. Hope you guys have a great week.